Welcome back. Let's talk to a poet. Faleye joins us right here in our Lagos studios. Mr. Faleye, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff.
It's been a while we saw a poet in that sense, you know. You guys are a rare breed, but we're happy to see what some of you are now doing. I think in the last 2 years or so, I saw a young lady who, from her poetry, she now does some real big work for brands in that sense. I don't think it was a popular thing. So perhaps it's the direction of content creation. So talk to us about how it is to be successful as a poet before we go to the nitty-gritty.
Poetry is as old as nature conservation and even culture. Even before a lot of the things we know today are being documented, right? Culture is being transmitted via verbal communication, like what we know today as our folklores and all of that. They are being transmitted as verbal communication. And I mean, in that lineage, that is where poetry belongs. And, with poetry, you tend to communicate complex beliefs, complex cultures, complex emotions, basically. You encode them in memorable lines and you transport them. And of course, with the advent of content creation as we have it today, we have spoken words, which, also falls under a certain genre of poetry. And of course, that's good money spinning venture.
Money spinning venture.
Absolutely.
I'm interested in that. You got my attention.
Absolutely. So you do well. You do that well yourself.
Thank you very much. But let's talk about the money, right? It's for the good of the economy.
Absolutely.
This is not for any of us, right?
Absolutely.
But when you talk about that bit of it, how can we multiply? How can we 10x it? Because I see a lot of talent. And you said that poetry is as old as nature itself,
Absolutely.
right? And it's amazing how much of talent we have in Nigeria. Maybe it's because of the challenges around us that everybody just becomes a poet, or at least a lot of people are not just poets, but they're very deep.
Absolutely.
You can see that talent. You can see the depth of thought. You're like, this can compete globally, but somehow it's still where it is. So how can we 10x, 20x? Is that something we're missing for you?
As we had today, you will agree with me that the media, right, especially social media as we have it today, is an amplifier.
Yeah.
It's a voice amplifier. Unlike before now where, poetry can just be confined to maybe a live audience in terms of performances and all of that. To amplify all of that right now, with the advent of social media, it amplifies your voice, it widens your reach, it widens your audience, and that's where the advantage is. Whatever it is you're doing, as a matter of fact, my published book, If I Were My Country's President, is on Amazon. It's on Amazon. That's an amplified platform, right? And it means anybody from, I have even relatives, friends from the US, from Europe that has reached out, that has acquired it, and the feedback.
And the collections forward was penned by Engineer Benga Daniel, if I'm correct. So I want to have a sneak peek, because everybody always says it, if I were my country's president. What is that about, really? And really, if you were our country's president, what will change? Explain that body of work for us. What are you hoping to trigger or maybe ignite by doing that?
What you just said reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend just immediately after the book was released. Yeah, he asked me what I would do first if I became the president of Nigeria, and just jokingly, I told him I would ensure a currency parity between the naira and the dollar. And yeah, of course, that was supposed to be a joke. Like we probably had it, the closest we ever had it in the 70s, where it was just maybe. There was never a time, in the 80s, as it were, there was never a time that a naira was equal to a dollar, right? Yeah. But then we had it that close. And taking a cue from that, you would agree with me that the mainstay of the economy at the time was agriculture. And at the time, we didn't need to bother too much about forex. We didn't need to bother too much about foreign reserves and all of that. But that is not the case now. Since oil was discovered, there's been a total shift from that, and we've tend to, give little or less attention to other parts of the economy that could also grow our foreign exchange base.
I know you've done a lot of commentary on activism, leadership, and all of that. So following on that question of leadership, and I'm happy you mentioned parity with numbers. I'll just share with Kaide data by Statistens that showed that as of 1960, Nigeria's GDP was in the range of $4-point-something billion with about 45 million people, compared to South Korea, which their GDP then was $3-point-something billion. Today, Nigeria's GDP, in terms of value of GDP, is less than $200 billion, at about $182 or so billion, while that of South Korea is about 1.7 trillion by the IMF projection, but practically it's about 1.6 or so trillion. So we can see there's a lot of work to be done in that sense. So my question to you is, when you look at our country and what you do, are you doing enough within your collective to put the powerful to account? Or bring them to account in that sense? Because poets used to be such a powerful force that some of them ended up in prison because of what they just wrote.
Absolutely. Well, that's basically what I try to do with, if I were my country's president. It's an anthology, right? It speaks to different themes of social justice, of self-awareness as a nation, of course, holding countries to, holding leadership to accountability. There are diverse topics from a citizen's creed. A citizen's creed explores basically what the average citizen wants. The average citizen doesn't even want too much from leadership. They just want to be safe. They just want to be able to afford basic things, basic necessities of life, like shelter over their head, security, good motorable roads. Basically to be able to earn a living, as it were. But as we have it today, and there are diverse topics being explored in the collection. There's T-Pain, of course. I'm sure we all. It's a lingo.
I love that your book is up to date. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
We try to do that. We have T-Pain. We all know how that came about, and so yeah, basically what we tried to do. What I also did with that was to. I'm a Nigerian like everybody else, right? So I know what the yearnings, I know what everybody is saying. So we basically just brought all of that together into encoded, memorable lines that would resonate with the people.
You said something very instructive about your book previously, and I know you planned this, what some have described as an ambitious book tour, across Africa. But you said your goal was really about sparking a continent-wide conversation about our shared struggle, and find coordinated solutions. So today you have a conversation making rounds about Burkina Faso de facto leader, Ibrahim Traore. Some say it is PR, but some say no. They see the way the people seem to love him in the country. There's a lot of positive talk about him. In fact, some have proffered that same solution for other African countries. So whether it is PR, whether it just shows that there is some sort of movement. And we've seen how other countries have also caught that bug in that sense. So when you talk about shared solutions for issues of governance in Nigeria, for citizenship as well, because it seems some people are saying, well, maybe we should go that way, but we forget that we've gone that route three times or so before. So what would be your final take on that African mindset about what governance should look like? And this talk about Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso.
Quite dicey, right? I'm a fan of democracy, right? So whatever I'm going to say is not necessarily trying to point us in that direction. But you would agree with me that some of the hybrid development you have experienced as a nation came during the military administration. And I cannot remember who used that word. Maybe it was Obasanjo. He came up with the lingo, benevolent dictatorship, right? You cannot, if you have, democracy gives room for dissenting opinions, as it were. But then I'm also of
of the opinion, and that's why a lot of people do not necessarily reconcile with the current administration that, I mean, we have. They sort of think he's been alienated from the people. But then, understandably, certain tough decisions needs to be taken.
Yeah.
And not minding, of course, there are going to be a few casualties here and there. So I basically stay, I mean, I'm a fan of democracy.
It's a tough one, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I want you to do a line for us. Maybe one of your favorite lines from your works, but something, because you have the voice. You have the mind, so boy, it would be remiss of us not to just take a line, something for you, perhaps, from your body of work.
Okay, I might not necessarily run, run the line.
Just something for us to take over.
Okay,
short and straight.
Absolutely, I'll do something from the Citizens' Creed. The Citizens' Creed, I believe in the morning markets where hopes are not being dashed. I believe my votes should be worth more than their gold. I believe in excuse me, it's not coming now.
Absolutely. Just put you on the spot, so I totally understand. But
the
Citizens' Creed is part of the body of work that is called If I Were My Country's President, and the book is out there. It's great to see what you're doing, and we have to thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm sure people should go pick it up. Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's on
fantastic.
And you're more a writer than a performer.
I'm everything. I describe myself as a multi-layered creative.
There you go.
All right, fantastic. Faleye is a poet, writer, and multi-layered creative.
I'm a filmmaker, I'm a journalist.
Okay. We are going to explore that filmmaker bit. I knew that, but I said let's talk about the issues in the country first.
All right, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you. Thank you.
I mean, I would hope to be back soon.
Absolutely.
Not a problem. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get to some stretch of the conversations we have left on the program. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back.